Welcome to the Family Brand Show. We're Chris and Melissa Smith of FamilyBrand.com, husband and wife, parents of 5, and we want to help you take back your family and to live life on your terms.
And we know being a family can feel really overwhelming. Parents tell us they feel like they're being pulled in a million different directions. It's so challenging to navigate the uncertainty and all the chaos that's happening in the world right now.
And that's why we want to bring you every single week actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become a better parent, to become a better spouse, and to build a stronger family. And look, there's never been a better time and a more important time than right now to take back your family. You can define what your family stands for, or the world is going to do it for you. And the world needs strong families now more than ever. And it starts right here with your family. So several years ago, maybe a few years ago, Melissa and I read a book by Brene Brown. I can't remember the actual book right now as I'm thinking about it. But in this book, she talked about coming up with a list of like your personal ingredients for joy and meaning. And that all of us have things that bring us joy and meaning in our lives, and that are unique to each of us individually. And it's kind of like a recipe. It's like, if you use these ingredients consistently, then this will be the outcome consistently. And our lives are the same way. Like, if there's a recipe that we follow, then our lives will have a consistent outcome. And so what she was encouraging you to do is like to look at what are the ingredients of joy and meaning in your life. Because if you're aware of the ingredients, you can use them more often. And sometimes maybe the reason our lives don't have as much joy and meaning is simply because we just either haven't identified the ingredients or we've kind of lost sight of them. So Melissa and I thought that like it was really insightful, really useful conversation that she and I had, and we looked at that in our individual lives. But then we also said, what if we applied this to our family? And the way we kind of took the ingredients for joy and meaning with our family was like, our family works when, our family doesn't work when. And it was really insightful just to see like, hey, our family really works when we're doing these things or treating each other these ways or having these type of routines. And our family doesn't work when. It was, what was crazy to me is how many things on there were so obvious, and yet we weren't doing them consistently simply because it just was like, it wasn't documented, it wasn't written down. Melissa was like, man, with the season we're heading into, getting ready for summer activities and even like spring activities and sports, it's just, this can be like a time where families are just running in a million different directions, and we certainly are right now as well.
So after almost 6 years of the Family Brand podcast, sometimes it's hard for me to remember, like, at what point did we talk about this before? Because I'm pretty sure we mentioned this before, but just like everything, sometimes you forget what you already know, and half of life is remembering to do the things that you already know. And we did recently record a podcast episode about that even. And so I thought it could be fun for us, even because, as Chris mentioned, this is where we're at right now. Like, we've just been talking about how crazy life feels right now. Like, as one example, we have 3 baseball games today that we're supposed to be attending.
2 baseball and 1 softball.
And a softball, yeah.
All at the same time.
Yeah, all the exact same time. So we're like scrambling. And I know that is not unique to us. Like, I think every family is feeling this a little bit. And it only like seems like it gets more intense as you get closer to the end of the year, with all of the end of the year activities and like Teacher Appreciation Week and like, just all those things that happen between now and the end of the school year. So I thought this might be a good time for us and you, the listener, to step back and be like, okay, what are like our non-negotiables, the things that really make our family work, have our family work, have us feel connected, and let's make sure that we're doing those things that are most important. And so maybe we'll walk you through a little bit of what that looks like. But you know what? And actually, Chris and I had this conversation a couple days ago when we were at a baseball game, just talking about, life does feel busy right now, and asking this question, are we happy right now in how life is going? And that was inspired by some conversations that Chris has had recently. I don't know if you want to expand on those at all, but.
Yeah, life does seem very busy and full and blessed, but also just, a lot going on between business and family and commitments. And so one of the things that we have a little farm here, like we have some acreage and a pecan grove. And so we have chickens, and we've grazed some sheep at times on the grove that weren't ours, and we loved having sheep. I really loved it. So I was like, I want to buy some sheep of our own. So Ivy and I, this past Sunday, drove.
She's 14.
Yeah, she was a road warrior and came with me. We drove 10 hours to Colorado, bought a ram and 4 ewes, and then drove 10 hours home the next day. And, I'm really excited to have sheep. And part of probably everyone listening is like, and you just added more stuff to your crazy.
No, just 20 hours of driving.
Yeah, but it was awesome to spend that one-on-one time with Ivy too. So that actually totally made it worth it to me, just to be able to connect with her and spend time with her. And so on this drive, well, I've had 2 people randomly recently, like out of nowhere, just ask me. One person asked me in person. We were talking, catching up, and they were just like, hey, are you happy right now with your life, with your business, how things are going? Are you happy? And I was like, wow, like that's a really useful question, but not one that, and it really had me think like, am I happy? Like, if I am, like what's causing me to be happy? If I'm not in some areas, why would I say I'm not? It was just really confronting in a good way. And then another friend over a text message, randomly out of nowhere, hey, are you happy? And then we're driving to Colorado. We get on the final stretch, the last hour of the 10-hour trip. And it's between this little town called Trinidad, Colorado, and La Junta. And it's just a straightaway. I was like, I bet there's a lot of wildlife around here. It's night, but I can just, there's a ton of grass and looks like kind of like prairie type land. And sure enough, right after I say that, this really big doe crosses the road. And then as Ivy and I are driving, we start seeing deer everywhere, right along the edge of the road because there's a lot of tall grass. So I slow down a little bit. And then we come upon this vehicle that's going really slow. And it kind of has like a caution on the back of it, like marking. But it wasn't a police officer. And at first I was a little bit annoyed. And I'm like, even Ivy's like, what are they doing? Why are they driving so slow? They're slowing us down. And I was like, well, should I pass them? Should I not?
And you're at the end of this 10-hour drive, and it's dark, and I'm sure you're hungry and tired.
Oh yeah, we want to get to the hotel, want to go to bed. And they kind of tapped their brakes 3 times. And I was like, oh, are they telling me to pass? Are they telling me to slow down? Because I wasn't up on them. I was like, what is going on? And I just kind of have this feeling don't pass them, keep following them. Then I see them tap their brakes again 3 times, and then I notice that there's deer everywhere. And I was like, oh. And then I take a closer look, and I notice that their headlights, they have sometimes special type lights, their headlights point out into the, not just forward in the road, but out into the sides of the road, 20, 30 feet. And I realized whoa, their headlights are way more powerful or illuminating the wildlife. And I was like, oh, they're trying to help me. They're tapping on their brakes 3 times when they've seen that we're coming up on some deer. And I was like, oh, I actually just need to follow this car. And all of a sudden I just had this thought comes to me. It goes, hey, slow down and follow the light. And that wasn't just in that moment. It was actually kind of, I think overall in life, the message I was being given is slow down, follow the light. And then it just kind of had me thinking about, are you happy? Those 2 questions. And if I was to say anything around what maybe I'm not happy, is the speed and the pace at which I'm running, and I think our family is. And I think sometimes we forget to realize we have control over that. There's going to be certain things that we have to do maybe, but for the most part, there's not anything that we have to do. We control the pace, the cadence, the frequency, or the craziness of our lives. And that was just kind of this message of slow down, follow the light. Yeah, and I think we've been feeling that as a family.
I really like that story. And it's at the beginning of this episode, we weren't going to talk about that, but I'm they actually so seamlessly kind of belong in the same conversation. So this is a podcast episode with homework. And jumping back to what we talked about at the beginning, it is to identify what has your family work? And maybe we could walk through a couple of examples of what this exercise would look like. But you will find that if you take the time to do this, you really will get clarity around, okay, what are the essential things that bring us joy, bring us peace? And usually for us, it's and why aren't we doing them? We know that these have our family work or operate really well, but why are we not do them? And how can we maybe shift some things in our life to have us do more of them?
Yeah, and some context, when we say our family works, what we mean by works is our family just runs pretty smoothly. Not perfectly, but for the most part, our family runs smoothly. We feel like we have time to do the things we enjoy. We feel like we have time with each other. Our routines are consistent, just kind of like a bit of a well-oiled machine. And then the opposite, like our family doesn't work. And when our family is not working, it just feels chaotic and disorganized and nothing's like coming together. So that was kind of, and I don't think it's like our family's amazing or our family's most happy. It's just like, no, our family works when. And I think if you sit with that and you talk with your significant other or your children, and our kids like had some insights like, hey, when our family's just working, when things just seem to be going smoothly, when for the most part we're happy as a family, what do you think causes that? Their answers have ranged from, oh, when we eat lots of meals together, when we have our morning devotional together, when we are consistent with bedtimes, when we have our nightly pickup routine, when we have, when Melissa and I go on a date night. Like there's so many things, like you'll identify things that have your family work just because of what your marriage is doing or not doing. You'll have things that identify what has your family work because like you as the entire family. And yeah, it's just a really useful exercise. And there's probably going to be some things that come up on the list that you're like, duh, like, of course. But that's the point. It's like, well, why would we not do this if it has our family work?
I'm trying to think of some other examples of what this might look like for your family. I can remember on our list, the last time we sat down and did it was like when we're spending time outside together. That was really important.
Yeah, even yard work, which seemingly everyone complains about. And it's always a little bit of a battle. And yet we could identify, in spite of the fighting, in spite of the arguing, in spite of the complaining, and the effort it takes to get us out in the yard working together, when we do it, those days and the days thereafter just seem to like be better, like our family works better. I think we've also identified when Melissa and I exercise regularly. Now that might seem like, well, that's something you're doing individually, but we've seen that like that has a carryover and an impact on our whole family. Like our family works better when we are taking care of ourselves. So
I think it could be too. Other thoughts. We're just brainstorming here. Like if you have a certain amount of like limited TV time, or maybe like opposite, maybe it's like, oh, when we do family movie night together, or depending on, gaming, maybe less gaming, only on certain days, kind of that thing. Because I think those are the things that sometimes you just look up and you're like, oh, we've gotten off track, with kind of what we want for our family. And we got to bring it back, bring it back to what we want, which I feel like happens all the time. So this is your opportunity to take a step back and look, hey, how can we hit this last little bit of the school year with more intention, more connection, just a family that runs smoother.
all right, so that is it for today's episode of the Family Brand Podcast.
But before you go, we have something fun for you.
Yeah, like if you've ever wondered, okay, so how's our family culture actually doing? We've got an incredible quiz for that.
Good news, it's quick, it's free, and when you're done with that quiz, we'll even email you this awesome PDF full of practical ways to strengthen your family culture right away.
So all you have to do is go to familybrand.com/quiz, take the quiz, grab the PDF.
We'll see you next time.